This is the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. AWS is fond of saying security is job zero. That means it's nobody in particular's job, which means it falls to the rest of us. Just the news you need to know, none of the fluff. This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Chronosphere. When it costs more money and time to observe your environment than it does to build it, there's a problem. With Chronosphere, you can shape and transform observability data based on need, context, and utility. Learn how to only store the useful data you need to see in order to reduce costs and improve performance at chronosphere.io/Corey-Quinn. That's chronosphere.io/Corey-Quinn. And my thanks to them for sponsoring my ridiculous nonsense. Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS Security, the podcast. It's been a quiet week, which means that because I've just said that out loud, we're about to get the next cloud heartbleed as soon as I wind up pressing publish. Now let's see what the community got up to last week. Zoom took an outage, and the message was clearly AWS generated. The root cause was a misconfigured SCP. We really need an audit mode for these things where they'll warn if they would fire rather than just blocking things outright so we can find these edge cases before inflicting them on our customers. And a Department of Energy report shows that there were some rather serious gaps in how they were approaching security monitoring of their cloud environments. I didn't think I had to say this, but when your workplace is also a nuclear site, an awful lot of the security checkboxes are no longer just checkboxes and are extremely non-optional. AWS had 3 posts out. Logging strategies for security incident response. The things that this post lays out indicates that there may be even more types of logs within AWS than there are ways to run containers, and I found over 34 of those. Reduce triage time for security investigations with Amazon Detective visualizations and export data. And okay, it's very pretty because I can see it being of middling utility, but incredibly helpful for putting up on the screen when executives drop by. You need something impressive looking for them to stare at. Don't laugh. I did exactly this in a previous job to excellent effect. And TLS inspection configuration for encrypted traffic in AWS network firewall. I hate this pattern personally because intercepting TLS is problematic in a few ways, not the least of which being that it provides a fat, juicy target for attackers, compromise the thing that's doing the interception, and it's security game over time. And from the tools and tips side of the world, I found a dedicated repository of winners of the S3 Bucket Negligence Awards over the last 5 years. Ideally, your company is not contained within. And that's what happened last week in AWS Security. Onward. Thank you for listening to the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. For the latest in AWS security that actually matters, please follow AWS Morning Brief on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever the hell it is you find the dulcet tones of my voice. And be sure to sign up for the Last Week in AWS newsletter at lastweekinaws.com.